Focus on being better, not just bigger. In fact, my favorite business quote of all time right now may be this quote by Truett Cathy, which is focus on being better, not just bigger. In fact, I was reading a book last year, and they had this an amazing story about Truett Cathy. Now, how much of it is true, I don't know, but I'd like to believe at least part of it is true. So I'm going to tell you this story right now, and then we're going to go into it. So there was a time in the 90s when this new chicken shop came on the scene called Boston Chicken. Now, don't quote me on like dates and times right now. I'm just off the cuff here. But Boston Chicken was like crazy taking over market share compared to Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A had already been on the market for decades at that point. And here they are, and they were approaching becoming a billion-dollar company decades ahead of Chick-fil-A. So there was reportedly this notorious meeting at the Chick-fil-A headquarters with Truett Cathy and his executive team. And all around the table, these executives were going like, how are we going to get to $1 billion? And, how are we going to catch up to Boston Chicken? And they've only been on the market this long. And we have to be bigger. We have to open more stores. We have to do this. We have to do this. And usually in a very calm fashion, Truett Cathy led his meetings. But in this particular meeting, he banged his fist on the desk and said, enough. There will be no more talk on how we get bigger. The only thing that we are going to do is focus on being better. And if we get better, then our audience will demand that we get bigger. And that was the end of that. And so here's the thing that's so cool is the executive team rallied around behind that, and they doubled down on how do we get better? How do we become better at customer service, have a superior product, have a better environment, offer different types of menu options. And here's what the craziest thing, less than 10 years later, Chick-fil-A had already hit $1 billion, and Boston Market was out of business, filed bankruptcy. Now, at Brain Builders Group, for 2024, our motto, our mantra for the year is better over bigger, much due to this story of Chick-fil-A and Truett Cathy. But I think there's an important lesson in here for all of us around why do we want to get bigger? Why does everyone talk about growth and scale over just how do I become better at what I do? How do I make sure that I'm blowing the socks off the customers I have versus how do I get new customers? Why aren't we asking ourselves, how do we make sure that our technology is better, our systems are better, our processes are better, our people are better, instead of going, how do we get more, more, more? Sometimes more is not better. In fact, oftentimes more is not better. More means more complications, more issues, more problems, more complexity. More is not always better. And sometimes we just need to sit back and go, how do we get better so that our audience demands that we get bigger? So, how do we get better? And I think that's a huge part of it. Step one is you have to believe in this concept that bigger isn't always better, right? But better is always better. Bigger isn't always the best thing for you, but it's always worthwhile to become better at what you do, your products, your services, your processes, your people. So, how do you get better? Step one, ask your customers. Ask your customers, how can we get better? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? What would you change? What feedback do you have for me? What ideas do you have for me? What would you want more of? What would you pay more for? If you really want to know how to get better, you start with asking your customers, how can we do a better job for you? How can we improve our products and services for you? Because you're why we're doing this. Don't try to get bigger to attract strangers. Get better to keep the customers you have. And that's a really important part of this. It's not always about finding the new, it's about how keeping what you have. Step two, ask your team. Ask your team, how do you get better? They know, they're the ones doing it. Often you're so far removed from the front lines, you don't even know anymore. So stop and ask your customers, and then stop and ask your team. They're like, man, like, what's not working? What's frustrating? What's exhausting? What's duplicative? What's manual? How do we get better as a team in our processes, in our systems, in our customer experience, in our customer service, in our collections? How do we get better? That's how you know is you ask the people using your products and services and the ones who are actually doing the functions of your company. That is how you know how to get better. And I promise you, the result of getting better will be that you get bigger. That will happen as a natural byproduct of serving well and serving better, both on a customer front and an employee front. The more that you can focus on serving the people right in front of you, they will bring more people to you. If you blow the minds of your customer because you're focused on making things better for them, don't you think they're going to share this with their friends and family and other people they know? Of course they will. But you know what? The same thing goes for your team, for your employees. If you serve them well, if you serve them better, don't you think that they're going to stay and then tell their friends that it's just an awesome place to work? Right? The greatest compliment in the whole world is for your employees to be the recruiters for your company. And you do that by serving them well and serving them better. And how do you do that? You just ask. You ask them and you ask their customers, and you have a relentless dedication of being better over being bigger. Because bigger isn't always better, but better always is.